So if you've been in the community for a while, you might have heard a lot of people say your manifestation shouldn't take longer than X amount of weeks or X amount of months or whatever. And personally, I don't think it's one of those things where you can just, judge whether something is bad or good just by solely looking at the time it took for someone to manifest something or the time it's taking to manifest something into the 3D. So coach saying, it shouldn't take more than 3 months, max 3 months or something, right? Like for them, that's the case. And, some of you might feel that 3 months is like the maximum amount of time you can wait for something to come into fruition. But say something is taking more than 3 months in your case, right? That doesn't necessarily mean you failed, because I feel like a lot of people, when they hear these kind of advices, they say, okay, well, then I must be doing something wrong. But look, not necessarily, okay? And again, I'm not saying you cannot manifest anything within 3 months if that's what you decide, but I'm just saying that you shouldn't look at other people's time frames and use that as a benchmark for your own manifestation journey. And look, another thing that we often forget to talk about is that time does not exist. It doesn't matter at manifestation, okay? It's a purely 3D concept. So why are we even talking about that in the first place? Is what I want to say. However, if you feel that personally, right, not even looking at other people's opinions, personally, if it's taking more than it feels like it should for you, and you really want to get into the core of like, okay, then how can I speed it up? I mean, you should really think that way, but if you want to scrutinize your situation, maybe, right, consider the fact that perhaps you're ignoring the basics, like ignoring the 3D, or you're just told to affirm relentlessly, but personally, you don't believe they work, and, secretly you feel like that's stupid. What am I doing? Repeating words to myself. Or you might be hoping so hard while doing these things. For example, when I used to actually count my affirmations before I reached 10K, I used to get really nervous. Like around like 8,000 or something, I'll be like, oh my god, wait, is it really gonna come? But like, see, this is not the mindset to have when you're manifesting something. You're not, again, I say this so many times, but you're not doing something to get another thing. You know what I mean? Like you're supposed to embody the person who already has it. So why are you acting like you don't have it yet and you're still in the waiting process? So again, back to the point, but if you personally think that it's something is taking too long, then I actually suggest detachment like I always do. Because look, at that point, you're focused so much on time. And I think no matter how many people tell you, oh, yeah, actually, time does not matter. Secretly, you're thinking, well, it is actually taking a long time in the 3D. And a lot of coaches say that it shouldn't be taking that much time anyway. And that's all you're identifying with at that moment. Like, okay, this is taking too long. I can't manifest this for some reason. Something is wrong with me, or I'm doing something wrong. So the thing is, why don't you take that off your awareness, and just chill and relax and trust yourself that you don't have to actually think or do anything to manifest that because you're source, you're perfect. And at that point, listen, failure is occupying your mind more than success. That is maybe why it's not working. I wouldn't want to say that because nothing is not working. Everything is happening behind the scenes, but I'm just saying, in terms of linear time, you feel like it's not working, you feel like it's taking too long, you don't see it in the 3D because, again, you're identifying with failure most of the time, and that is your dominant identity. And while many people say consistency is the key, persistence is important, and yes, that is true, but sometimes we can misinterpret that what that means in the first place. It's not about being in the waiting state for a long time. It's not persisting on waiting. It's all about being, right? But sometimes it's really hard to embody that. Like whenever you think about it, you just kind of spiral, I guess, or just, have a lot of doubts. So that is why I always say detach. And, if that's not your thing, that's fine, but I'm just saying that may be the case sometimes. Oh, and personally, this is my approach. But if someone says, okay, do you think this is taking too long? I wouldn't actually say no. You know, whether it's 3 months or a year, I wouldn't even say that. Because what do you mean, like, it's taking too long? That's completely up to you to decide whether something is taking long or not. And if you keep saying that this is taking too long, if you keep acknowledging that part, it's just not going to be good anyway. So that's why if someone were to ask me, I wouldn't comment on that. However, I think you've seen these kind of comments as well, especially on other platforms. But some people say, well, I've been persisting for 6 years or even like 10 years. I've been blocked for 10 years. Okay, well, in that case, I kind of hate to tell you, but maybe you're just persisting in the wrong direction. You know, like I said, you're persisting on waiting for it. Maybe that is why. Because, like, you know, as much as I don't like to talk about time, alright, it looks like I'm contradicting myself when I said that, you know, you shouldn't look at time, but, like, if you're saying, like, 10 years, come on, like, you're not really, you don't know how it works, I think. Like, the fundamentals. So, that's something to actually improve. But then I'm sure that this 10-year thing does not really apply to anyone that's watching TikTok right now. Because, look, if someone has been in the manifestation community for 10 years, then I don't think they would be asking such basic questions anyway. Like, oh, how did I manifest SP back? It's been 10 years. I don't think they are going to ask that sort of question in the first place. So, yeah, just don't worry about that.